Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're bringing you a brand new explainer on a topic that is just absolutely fundamental to human health, the anatomy of the pancreas. We're going to treat this incredible organ like a hidden factory tucked right away inside your abdomen. You know, it's small, it's soft, and honestly, you probably never think about it until it stops working. So in this explainer, we'll uncover exactly where this hidden factory is located, how its internal assembly lines actually function, and why it's so crucial for your survival.
But before we start mapping out its structure, I've got a fascinating question for you. Why is the pancreas almost impossible to feel during a physical exam? I mean, even if a doctor presses firmly on your abdomen, they usually can't palpate it. Well, the reason is its extremely deep, hidden location. It sits way behind your stomach and several other organs, pushed right up against the posterior abdominal wall. And because of this heavily shielded retroperitoneal location, conditions like tumors or cysts can unfortunately grow quite large before they're ever detectable from the outside.
All right, Section 1, meet the hidden pancreas. Let's get the lay of the land and look at its basic anatomy. Physically, the pancreas is shaped kind of like an elongated, flattened fish. It's surprisingly light, too, weighing only about 60 to 100 grams, so up to 3.5 ounces, and measuring roughly 12 to 15 centimeters long. You'll find it horizontally crossing the bodies of your first and second lumbar vertebrae, perfectly wedged right between the duodenum on its right side and the spleen on its left. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This organ runs two completely different manufacturing lines at the exact same time. First, you have the exocrine line, which makes up about 85% of the organ. These are the acinar cells producing digestive enzymes to break down fats, proteins, and carbs in your intestines. Then you have the endocrine line. These are tiny, scattered clusters called the islets of Langerhans, and they secrete hormones like insulin and glucagon directly into your blood to manage your blood sugar. So you've got two vastly different jobs, all happening inside one tiny factory.
Section 2, Anatomy. We're going to break this down into its four distinct parts: the head, the neck, the body, and the tail. We'll start our tour on the right side with the head. This is the first and definitely the widest part of the pancreas. It's completely and snugly surrounded by the C-shaped curve of the duodenum, and that makes perfect sense because the duodenum is exactly where the pancreas needs to deliver all those powerful digestive juices. Also, notice that little projection reaching downwards and backwards? That's called the uncinate process. It's a specific hook-like part of the head that extends medially, right behind some major blood vessels. Moving slightly left, we hit the neck. Now, the neck is the shortest portion of the pancreas, sitting perfectly between the head and the body. Geographically speaking, it sits right behind the pylorus of your stomach. But what's super important here is that it passes directly in front of the superior mesenteric artery and vein. In fact, right behind this short little neck is the exact spot where the superior mesenteric vein unites with the splenic vein to form the massive hepatic portal vein. Continuing further to the left, we reach the largest section, the body of the pancreas. The body extends directly behind the stomach, and it physically crosses over the midline of your spine at the level of the first lumbar vertebra. It also passes right over the massive abdominal aorta. Because it's somewhat triangular in shape, it has three distinct surfaces and borders, so it's just an incredibly well-protected stretch of tissue deeply anchored in your abdomen. Finally, the body seamlessly tapers off into the tail, pointing toward the far left side of your body. And this part is actually really cool. The tail narrows down and reaches out to physically touch the hilum of the spleen. In the anatomy world, this intimate, direct connection is affectionately known as the kiss. The tail actually sits inside the splenorenal ligament, right alongside the major splenic blood vessels, making this whole area highly interconnected. Okay, Section 3, the duct system explained. Time to look at the internal plumbing. So, to ship out all those manufactured digestive enzymes, the pancreas relies on two main plumbing lines. First is the main pancreatic duct, which is also called the duct of Wirsung. This runs the entire length of the pancreas. When it finally gets to the head, it joins forces with the common bile duct coming down from the liver, and together they form a short, shared channel that opens directly into the duodenum at the major duodenal papilla. But there's often a backup line too. The accessory pancreatic duct, or duct of Santorini, sits just above the main duct. It collects juices specifically from the head of the pancreas and opens at its very own tiny doorway, called the minor duodenal papilla. Now you might be wondering, how does the body actually control the flow of all these juices? Well, at that main doorway, the major duodenal papilla, there's a specialized ring of smooth muscle called the hepatopancreatic sphincter, or the Oddi sphincter. You can think of it just like an anti-reflux valve.
When you eat and food passes into the duodenum, this muscle relaxes, allowing bile and pancreatic enzymes to pour in. But when there's no food, the muscle contracts tightly, closing the opening and stopping any intestinal contents from flowing backwards into the pancreas. Pretty smart, right?
Section 4. Blood and nerve supply. Let's see exactly what fuels this factory.
As you can imagine, a factory this busy requires immense resources to keep running. The blood supply here is remarkably rich. What's totally unique about it is that the pancreas actually shares a large chunk of its arterial supply with a neighboring duodenum. The primary blood vessels feeding this whole area originate from two massive branches off your aorta, the celiac trunk and the superior mesenteric artery. Together, they create this beautifully complex, overlapping web of blood vessels.
Let's quickly break down that dense arterial web. Around the head of the pancreas, you have 4 main vessels acting kind of like a roundabout. You've got the anterior and posterior superior pancreatoduodenal arteries, and those meet up with the anterior and posterior inferior pancreatoduodenal arteries. Meanwhile, the body and the tail get their primary blood flow straight from the splenic artery. That one runs all the way along the top border of the pancreas, dropping off smaller branches to feed the tissue as it makes its way toward the spleen.
Finally, who's actually managing the factory floor? That would be the autonomous nervous system. The parasympathetic system, that's your rest and digest pathway, driven by the vagus nerve, sends the exact signals to start production. It stimulates both the exocrine and endocrine parts to release their digestive juices, insulin, and glucagon. On the flip side, the sympathetic system, acting through the thoracic splanchnic nerves, provides the counterregulation to slow things down. These signals are constantly balancing each other out, and you literally never have to think about it.
Section 5. Key anatomical takeaways. Let's lock in a quick summary of what we've learned today. All right, if you remember nothing else from this explainer, remember these core points. The pancreas is deeply hidden in a retroperitoneal location, which is exactly why it's so hard to detect issues early on. It has a vital dual function, exocrine for digestion and endocrine for managing blood sugar. Anatomically, it's divided into 4 parts: the head, neck, body, and tail. Its powerful digestive enzymes travel through a specialized duct system protected by sphincters right into the duodenum. And lastly, it relies on a shared, incredibly dense network of arteries and veins to sustain its super heavy workload.
Isn't it absolutely amazing how a completely hidden 100-gram factory dictates so much of our daily health and basic survival? I mean, from breaking down your lunch to keeping your blood sugar stable, the pancreas is truly an anatomical marvel. If you found this explainer helpful and want to keep mastering human anatomy with us, please make sure to hit subscribe for more simple, structured medical explanations. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next explainer.